Behind the Lens with Beck Tech, and joining me in the studios are the president and owner of Beck Tech Communications, Beck Tech, a barback company, and he is Brit Miller, and the vice president of sales, Eric Smith, joining us in the studios this afternoon, as we're going to talk a little bit about home security. And this is something that has been high on my mind for a very long time. And first and foremost, welcome, guys. It's good to have you in the studio.
Hey, thanks for having us.
I
know long time coming, but I think just having this content and getting this out there and talking about these things, man, what you guys do in this studio, it's awesome, and we're glad to be a part of it.
I am thrilled to have both you guys in here because these are conversations that I've had with a lot of different people. Right out of the box, you guys had a question for me.
Yeah. What do you know about Motorola Solutions and what's
Beck
your
Tech
take?
and what we do?
I guarantee you, being an old guy, a lot of people think it used to be the Verizon store. Many moons ago.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we still have, and no offense to these people at all, because they are looking for something, but we have a lot of people that come in asking for cell phones or cell phone batteries.
And that's not what you do.
No, it's not. But what I will say is, my father-in-law Matt Beck and his partner at the time, Doug Barding, they built a great business based on that Verizon and all that time, though, we were still grinding in that radio space. And so that was real, and the fact that these guys come in and do those things and, still want to be supported locally is great. Absolutely right.
One of the things that, all right, when you ask me what I know about what Beck Tech does and what about Motorola, okay, we had this conversation last week. I will go way back in time when I was a wee lad, and my grandfather worked for B.F. Goodrich, and B.F. Goodrich at that time was a Motorola dealer, and they dealt with a lot of consumer goods, clock radios, stereo systems, the whole bit. But where Motorola really evolved was in developing their communication systems with the radios, and that's still something that really has blossomed over the course of the past 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, it's very, very prevalent, and most people still don't understand that the main form of communication at a Caterpillar or a Premiant or even at our hospitals, right, at Decatur Memorial, is radio. Our school districts is radio. It's an instant push to talk. I can get a hold of everybody at once. It's instantaneous. I don't have to wait, for someone to answer the phone or get a text message back, right? So it's the most reliable and efficient way to communicate. And it's not your grandfather's radio anymore. There's so much more that we can offer off a radio. It's a smart device now, essentially, like our phones. We're just without, some of the extra bells and whistles of social media and all that other stuff, right? And it's allowed us to tap into other markets. It's allowed us to help our customers bridge that gap in, the Internet of Devices, space of, putting sensors on the line or just making them more efficient, right, by hitting a button on a radio.
Right.
Yeah, these things, like, I get this question a lot, Jeff, and one of the things is, like, man, you guys, like, how are you going to make it in the radio world? Well, we're diversified. So, radios don't break the way they used to anymore. But, one of the things that we don't call them walkie-talkies,
Right.
That's for the guys that want to run.
For my kids, right?
Yeah,
that's what,
that's what you buy from Walmart or Amazon. What we sell is like mission-critical devices, right? And Eric mentioned it. Eric mentioned, we don't have social media. There are some radios that we sell, two-way communication devices, that have that ability, because we do need to have connectivity to that outside world and understand what's going on around our facilities. We have many police entities that actually are monitoring social media all the time because people tell them themselves,
Right.
And so having that connected to your radio and moving that, but really where the power of two-way communication really is the fact that we can prioritize our data. And so whenever you're on a cell phone, if there is a catastrophe, everybody's vying for those same channels on a cell phone tower, and it's equal.
Pardon me, I just want to interrupt real quick. I just literally had this conversation with my mother in Arizona on Easter Sunday because I'm on one of the big name networks on my cell phone, and it dropped. We called each other back, and then there was chatter and there was noise in the lines, but that's clog. I mean, that's just everybody on Easter Sunday trying to call each other, but you don't have that with what you guys do with Motorola.
Exactly. Exactly. So what we have is prioritized data. So we can actually prioritize those that need to be the voice whenever something bad happens. Now, day-to-day communication, we build systems for that, right?
Sure.
But really our true value is we build the system for your worst day. And why is that important? We can prioritize that data to make sure the voices that need to be heard in a time of crisis are being heard. They're giving direction. And then we can take those same systems and we can pair those with local law enforcement, local fire, emergency services. And that becomes instantaneous response, because if there is something bad happening and we're trying to get to a scene, and the people on site are trying to go through their protocols, we need to have that prioritized data so the voices that need to be heard are being heard. We call that like an emergency channel,
sure,
or the leadership channel, whatever it needs to be. But we can actually break into all other channels, like in the radio. We actually call them talk groups now. But the older style of communication,
right,
say, well, it's on a channel, I'm going to call it that. Well, so just a talk group essentially. But we can actually take all those over. We can break in. Have a lot of capabilities, and nothing that we sell is cookie cutter, by the way. It's not out of the box. We build these solutions. We dive in deep with our customers, especially on the radio side, to make sure they have the communication levels that they need and the priorities set up the way they need them set up for successful operations.
And you may need to make sure, and obviously you guys do there at Beck Tech. Again, this is Behind the Lens with Beck Tech. In the studios, we're visiting with Brit Miller and Eric Smith. The technology continues to evolve, and
always.
So you're relying a lot on the Motorola network, but you also understand it, and that's
right.
why you can explain it and break it down easy for the customers.
And here's what Motorola has done in the last 5 or 6 years, even when they broke off from the cellular business, right? I think that was back in 2010.
God, was it that
they,
long ago?
They officially kind of separated and parted ways.
That's a lot.
And you're talking about BlackBerry.
But since then, they've reinvested in themselves, and they've gone out and raised a bunch of capital, right? And so what they've done, they went out and they've bought 55 plus companies right now and invested $12 billion.
That's billion with a B.
With a B. In bringing product lines from video surveillance to door access, your cards, you go up and scan the card to let you in, to door locks, they're developing new locking lines, to concealed weapons detection that can, you walk through it and we can see if there's a gun or gun part on your body. Right, it's not a true metal detector. It's using RF. It's looking for shapes and objects.
Sure.
We're using AI in the background to see that. We have body-worn cameras that are all connected to our radios. Your radio system. We even have. They went out and bought a big boy company called Vigilon, who's big in the camera space. But they also went out and bought IP Video. And if you don't know who that is, they make vape sensors. But it's really, we call it a clean air sensor and IoT device.
Oh, okay.
And so we could process, 100, 200 different combinations of THC or marijuana with oxygen. But not only that, it has the capability. It's our, camera in the bathroom, right?
Sure.
We can't put cameras in the bathroom. We can't have eyes everywhere, right? Obviously, invasion of privacy. But that device is listening. So if someone yells help,
right,
or there's a glass break, a gunshot, whatever, that can trigger an alert right to our radio, right to our camera system. And they've integrated this platform together called Solving for Safer, and really streamlined everything. And now our schools, our manufacturing, hospitals, they have an ecosystem that's converged together, that they don't have to go and part it out and try to make those integrations. Motorola's already doing that. They've got the R&D. It's done. And
That's
so now
amazing.
makes our customers' lives so much easier. Makes our lives easier too, because we went through that 10 years ago of trying to find different products and software to match our radios, to match our cameras, to make it all work together seamlessly. It's tough to do. It's a very tough thing.
Imagine.
And we're matching the needs of our customers, by the way. It's not something we're just dreaming up, right?
Right.
And you're talking to a collegiate and professional football player, right? We didn't live in this world of IT and all these things, but one of the things that I think that Motorola has done very well is they've made it simple. they've made it easy to obtain. They've made it to where, hey, what can we help you fix? What can we help you accomplish? What can we help you avoid? And then now we go out and find these answers, and we figure out how to meld these things together for you. And there's not one entry point, right? So if you already have a surveillance system, a lot of times we don't even have to rip and replace. We can overlay analytics right on what you have today, and that's really a powerful tool for a lot of these schools that have fixed budgets. Towns. Decatur has done a great job of adding surveillance where necessary, along with many other cities that we represent. And that gives us more eyes, gives us more ability to solve crimes faster, and also to respond and protect our citizens at a better clip. I mean, that's where we always talk about our family protecting yours. We believe it. I mean, we love it. We live it, right?
Right.
And so that's where it's become, I guess I said that statement about football to understand, we're talking some high science right now.
Right.
But it's very obtainable. And once you, the GUIs are very easy to operate, like the dashboards, we call it one pane of glass. So we can see all this data. We can put it all together under one platform for you. And now you have an aggregate of all these different systems right in front of your face, which is what we're accustomed to now with our phones and our computers and all these things. It's a thing of beauty.
People have gotten so used to the constant inundation of data,
Yes.
and the screens have changed the world because you have this constant flow of information coming at you. It is very easy to consume, and especially when you've got professionals like you guys there at Beck Tech breaking it down for the customer. And this is why I'm going to be loving visiting with you guys every single month, because there is so much going on out there, and there are so many options, and there are so many ways to easily protect yourself, but you got to know the people to deal with, and that's why you guys are, long-time local business. But I do have a question, and you mentioned the two initials which jumped into my head because we're utilizing it very much in the radio industry. But you mentioned AI. AI has been a game changer for everybody, especially when it comes to the security industry, I bet.
Yeah.
Well,
let Eric ride on this, man, because I'll tell you what,
it's freaky.
Yeah, Eric in our business brings on a lot of our tech, and for me, before Eric gets to going here, because he'll go, is I'm always a little bit reluctant to change, right?
Same.
Just because I don't know where it's going to take the business. I don't know where it's going to take our customers. Are we taking them down a path that has no end or has a hard stop?
Right.
And AI, I was a little bit more reluctant than Eric in the beginning, and now everything is AI. So don't be scared of AI. Love it.
Can I give you a real life example?
Please do.
I had a client that had recorded a commercial. Unfortunately, the client gave the wrong website address. Okay. But he had signed a release that I was able to clone his voice with our AI program, and it was literally like Friday night, and at like 5:00 at night, I cloned his voice and I fixed it that easily with our AI program that we utilize for radio. I've done it with my own voice. It is. I was very much like you, very reluctant to dive into the AI world because I'm very suspicious.
I mean, it's out there, right? They're making robots.
We can responsible AI. Let's be honest.
That's it. And that's what we do here too, and that's what you guys do. But as I noticed, you deferred to Eric. It is a game changer, man.
Well, you think about this. So we call it the good AI, right? There's some bad AI out there, right?
Oh, of course there is. Somebody's always going to
crazy
twist
stuff.
it.
Yeah, there's. In 50 years from now, I don't know if I'm going to love to see it or hate to see it, but
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
It's too late now.
Yeah.
But think about this. There's about 4 cameras for every person.
Right.
Whether that's at a school or by the time you drive here to, Bloomington or here to Champaign, here to Springfield, right? Or even just driving around town.
Right.
There's license plate cameras that are taking snapshots, and sending it back to an AI database that they're looking for the hot hits, right?
Right.
The police are looking for these.
There are known
criminals,
people
right?
that they have identified,
which is
that
good, right? And
for.
some of these people travel from California through Decatur, or they come from Maine, or from Chicago, or from Florida, right? They're trafficking. They got drugs. They're doing whatever, right? Or maybe they're have a warrant for their arrest for just whatever, right? A felony. That's good AI. That helps, and that's a shared database between law enforcement agencies. Another example of good AI, as we talk about, is we get called a lot, and whether it's from our schools or from our police departments, or from whoever in the community, right? Say, hey, can you help me find this person? Can you help me find this car? Well, our AI has the abilities to search by shirt color, male, female, adult, child, truck, motorcycle, bicycle, and within seconds it could process all that data information to our customers, to us, and I can have a snippet from every camera, and we could potentially track that person's whereabouts in the school, right? Where they walked, where they went,
right,
who they interacted with, within less than 30 seconds. And then there's no more. You think about the old VCRs, right?
Yeah.
You know how you had to.
Show
my age a little bit too.
Watching the old crime shows.
Where you had to, turn the knob or hit the button.
You got the tape.
Yeah, and that's essentially where video surveillance was even 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long
It was
ago.
still a little black and white, right? Yeah. Now we're full color, full res. Our average resolution is 4K. Soon it's going to be 8K. When you go to Wrigley Field or where you go to, anywhere in St. Louis, those cameras are like 60K, 8K or 8K. They're 16K. They're using very, very high resolution cameras so they can see across the field or the football field or whatever it is. Right. You think about one. I'll give you one more example. Is we have some customers that have large camera systems.
Sure.
We cannot focus on 100 different images, live images, right, and catch everything. Think of AI as 100 different eyes on each camera processing that information, and then we can write rules and customize rules around what we want to see and trigger an alarm or event that pops up on our phone, on our computer screen, and we don't have to sit there and watch the cameras. We might have school resource officers that are walking around. They have a radio that has it's called our Ion radio. It's a Android-based driven device, radio first, data second, but they can have the app on their radio. And if that alert triggers and they're on one end of the campus to the other, because we have AI in the background watching for us, right? It triggers that alert. Now they can respond within seconds, not have to go back to the video, don't have to scrub through and say, who's this guy, who'd this kid get in a red truck with, right? And waste 2 hours of trying to find who it was, and when it was his brother or sister, right?
That's
taking
amazing.
him home.
And that's a real life.
That happens.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a real life example. So we had a local school district give us a shout, like in a pretty much of a panic. A kid didn't show up off his bus, and they thought, hey, he gets on the bus every day. Well, we went and found little Bobby. Let's call him Bobby.
Sure.
Little Bobby, instead of going to the bus, gets in a vehicle. Well, it ended up being his father. And so, but the parents weren't together. And so that became an issue really quickly.
Sure.
And so to understand that, hey, we weren't looking for him getting off at, 20 other bus stops. We were looking for Bobby now with his father, who probably shouldn't have been with, just based on, court rulings.
Right.
And so they were able to assess that situation. We had him pegged. We knew which way he left. We knew which direction they were going. And then a simple phone call to the dad, the question was answered. And, that became a parental issue at that point. So the school essentially, off the hook. But at the same time, you're responsible for these children. You're responsible for your employees. And in my opinion, we're responsible for our fellow man, right? Like, so let's be helpful. Let's figure these things out. But you mentioned those, like Eric talked about, we can see hundreds of screens. We can put them up on a big screen, but you can't concentrate on that. Right. So we give you these digestible bites that your brain can handle. And then we also predetermine what's important. But one of the best ones I think that's out there is like this general analytic that runs around. It's called unusual motion. And so let's talk about that a little bit, right? So we put our cameras up, whether it's in the city, school, whatever, and what these cameras do is they realize what's normal, right? So if it's a class...
So they learn.
Yes. Yep. And so if it's a school, we know about 7 periods a day, these kids are going to get out and they're all going to walk together. It's not going to be a big deal. But what happens if all those kids are out walking and it turns into 30 kids running? Right. There's really no analytic. You say, okay, if we have more than 5 kids running, we want to know. That's not real, right? That's too hard. And so what happens is it's called unusual motion. And so instead of walking walking, if all these kids are running in a general direction, we call that unusual motion, right? Or if a vehicle, instead of going 30 mile an hour down the road, it's going 60 and hits a building, that's unusual, right? And so, and so it has this general ability to learn as well. And so, why is that powerful? Well, if there's 30 kids running in a direction, what's happening? A fight. Something's happening, right? Or if that vehicle's going the wrong way down a road, that could be solved with many analytics, but just unusual motion detection is perfect, right? Because now we understand that shouldn't be happening. That's not normal in our landscape here, in our surveilled view, and so that can trigger alerts. And we're talking about melding these systems together. But if you talk to any officer that's had to pour over video, 5 years ago, they're looking at every second of that video.
Right.
So if I have a timeline that this happened between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m.
You got 12 hours to cover.
Yeah, so now we're literally watching that film, and we don't have to do it anymore, because what causes issues in this world? People and vehicles, for the most part. It's got to be people driven. Like you got natural disasters, and we have a lot of those on our cameras, by the way, and those are scary. But people and vehicles are really the things that we want to monitor, we want to see, we want to figure out. So we actually have there's these, you're looking at your timeline, and it shows up as light blue color or purple color just for some of our analytics. And every time those colors show up, that means there's a person or a vehicle, or there's an interaction between those two. And that's what we're trying to protect the most, right? And so our ability to just go from point A to point B, skip multiple hours and figure things out, I mean, it's phenomenal. And there's just, it's growing, it's changing every day, like we talked about earlier. But like having those general rules built, having a safety roadmap, having a plan. Yep. So many people don't have a plan.
And that's
and not reactive.
And that's what's got to be great about having a partner like Motorola Solutions. I mean, because they're doing this they're diving into this. They're working with you guys to streamline it for each individual customer. And next month, when we visit again next month, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about school security,
big time,
and also workplace security, but school security more than anything else, because you're hearing about Dan Cooley from the Bullet Trap, and have talked multiple times about this. The security systems really that the school district should be looking at are systems like yours, because this gives them everything that they need to keep the kids safe, and that's really what the overall should be the goal for everybody.
Yeah, and I can proudly say, as a badge of honor for Beck Tech here, we represent, I want to say 100% of schools in this county.
That's great.
I mean, and so it does take time, right?
Sure.
But we have devices, we have something in every single one of the school districts around, and we have guys that have adopted more, and but the thing is you can always grow in this, and those integrations are become easier and easier as time goes on, and I have 4 kids, right?
Sure.
Erica's a bunch of kids. I mean.
Yeah, mine are grown, thank God.
Well, even grown kids need some love.
True too. That's true too.
Hey, need some surveillance, right?
Exactly.
And and so I'm one of them. My mom would say that for sure. But it's just one of them deals where it's like, why? Let's do what's right. Let's do what's right. Let's give people the tools to make good decisions and accurate decisions. And one thing I always learned about in football, what I learned to say, the film don't lie.
Yeah.
Right. And so whatever's on that film, whatever that person said and whatever the other person said, the truth's probably somewhere in the middle. And that's that video piece, right? And we're going to find that out. And we're going to be able to give, accurate information to law enforcement, to insurance, to your family, to understand what's going on. And how do you make it through this world, man? It's changing every day. And we've seen it. I'm 38 years old, and some people will call that a pup, and some people call that ancient. But the reality is my life has changed a ton in those 38 years.
Just the changes we've seen has been amazing.
Yeah, it's for the good though, right? Yes. And I'll leave you with this, is that people need to understand it's a layered approach, right? It's not one thing that's gonna keep you safe. It's multiple layers of this, right? Multiple, peel back the onion, whether it's the radio, for voice, whether it's cameras with the AI and the video, right, to provide the evidence that's needed or when the time comes, right? And whether it's the door locks, right, keeping people out of your business that don't need to be there, or your schools, to concealed weapons detection, right? Where you walk through your entrances at Cubs game, Cardinals game, whatever it may be. We all walk through at Disney, right? Yeah. Six Flags. You're all walking through them. It's part of everyday life. So it's a layered approach, and you don't feel like they shouldn't have to feel like they need to take, they have to eat the whole elephant at once, right? The goal is to take some steps, get on a safety roadmap, look at a plan 3 to 5 years, take a bite, you take a chunk out at a time, chew it up, swallow it. All right, go to the next bite, right? And that's the way we keep our community safe and our schools safe.
It's just like technology. It's always evolving.
Correct.
It is always evolving. Guys, if somebody wants to talk about security for their business or even home consumer, you guys work with everybody, right? How do they find you guys?
So, you could always give us a shout at 217-428-7000. That's, we're headquartered here out of Decatur. But, if you have family members that are out running around or are spread out, we have shops in Rockford. We're in Dixon, Illinois. We're in Champaign, Illinois. We do a lot for the university over there and that community, down in Effingham. And now we got 2 young guys, Blake Bowers. So Bowers is a popular name here in town, and so we're happy to have him, and Nick Garner, who the Garner name strong through the Peerless time spent. So, we have those guys working down in Metro St. Louis, Metro East.
Oh, cool.
So we have a huge footprint now here. We rep basically the whole state. We prefer to stay out of Cook County. A lot of bureaucracy up there that we choose to avoid.
Gee, I can't imagine why.
But but I will say this, we got 8 sales guys running around. We have great support staff. We have young tech professionals that install this, and we have this great team right now at Beck Tech that it's I love going to work. I love seeing these guys. I like hearing their successes because they know what they're doing is helping.
Right.
They know what they're doing
and that's
matters.
The difference.
Yeah, and then and having that the guys, the sales team, kind of ride those waves and understand that this is always evolving. This is constantly changing, and you know what? We want to stay in phase with our partners. I don't want to be known as a salesman. That's the worst thing in the world to me.
No, you need to be a partner. And that's what you guys are. I mean, that's what you guys are.
We're living and dying with you, and to see our technology make a difference is a huge deal. And if it needs tweaked, we're there for you. If it needs to be better, then we go find those things. But being around Eric every day for the last 12 years, having these younger sales guys they're all accomplishing great things in their life, getting married, having kids, buying their first homes, to be a part of that from the business side has been phenomenal. But to really see our outward impact, I mean, I couldn't be more proud to be the owner of Beck Tech, but to work with these guys every day, I mean, it's phenomenal. And to be in the community, which is what I love, and it's been great, and it's continuing to grow, and we're trying to manage that growth. That's the hardest part of my job right now, and but to give people these actionable results, give them some sense of security. I didn't get in the business thinking that that's what we were going to do, but I will say this. Motorola, everybody knew them, back in the day for, TV, cell phones, all these things. They were a radio company. They were a 2-way radio company, a 1-watt radio, Motorola radio, talked to the moon for the first time.
Right.
And that's wild. Sitting over here, we're probably on a few thousand watts pushing this thing out. We talked to the moon with a 1-watt Motorola radio.
Right.
And how much it's evolved. And the thing I will say that has changed up the Motorola kind of mantra is our CEO at Motorola, Greg Brown, came out 2 years ago and said this, and it was an astonishing statement. He said, "We are no longer a 2-way radio company. We are a video surveillance company augmented by 2-way radio access control, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And so for a Fortune 100 company to make that kind of statement, they know where this is heading. Yeah. The R&D is behind it. The numbers are behind it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the world economy is behind it.
They see the writing.
Yes,
they
sir.
know exactly what it is.
The fact that, we as Beck Tech are a channel partner, so we're the boots on the ground for a Fortune 100 company, strong partnerships, strong relationships. So Motorola comes down and sees us all the time. They join us in meetings because we don't pretend that we know everything. That's I always tell them, hey, guys, don't be the smartest guy in the room because you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And so we bring in guys to help support our efforts, to help support our local efforts and the needs of the communities we serve. And so Motorola, that partnership is continuing to grow for us. We are what they call a badge partner, so that means we're soup to nuts, man. We do it. Everything that's in that Motorola portfolio, we do. I mean, I was talking about selling drones yesterday down in Huddersville. And, but think about this, having a 3-minute response time to any accident within a county, that's big.
That's
so
huge.
it's always happening. And you talked about evolution, and that's where we're at. We're living it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I look forward to visiting again next month, man. We got a lot of ground to cover. We've covered a lot of ground today, but man, we got a lot more to cover.
Yes, sir.
Because this is not only endlessly fascinating to me, I understand the need for it, and I believe in it because it's something that we all got to be aware of. Brit Miller is the president and owner of Beck Tech, and also Eric Smith is the VP of sales with Beck Tech. Guys, it's been a pleasure. This has been Behind the Lens. Let's catch up again next month.
Sounds good. Thanks for
Jeff.
having us. At Beck Tech, with our long-standing partnership with Motorola Solutions, Inc., we deliver cutting-edge voice, data, and AI-driven analytics to keep people, property, and communities safe and connected. Whether it's police officers patrolling our streets and school hallways, firefighters entering a burning home, or manufacturers needing real-time monitoring, Beck Tech is solving for safer. From Moto Turbo to P25 public safety radios, we keep your teams connected, on-site or over LTE. Beck Tech and Motorola Solutions working together for a safer tomorrow. Visit us at becktechil.com to learn more.